Tokyo Disneyland is a 115-acre theme park at Tokyo Disney Resort. It's near Tokyo, Japan, and it was the first Disney park to be built outside the United States, and it opened on April 15th, 1983. The park was constructed by WED Enterprises in the same style as Disneyland in California and Magic Kingdom in Florida. It is owned by the Oriental Land Company, which licenses intellectual property from the Walt Disney Company. And Tokyo Disneyland and its companion park, Tokyo DisneySea, are the only Disney parks in the world not owned or operated by the Walt Disney Company in any capacity. And the rest is history. So that's a little backstory of Tokyo Disneyland and DisneySea, which are, of course, right near Tokyo. And that excerpt is literally from Wikipedia on Google. If you would like to read it for yourself, you are more than welcome to read it there. Tokyo Disneyland and DisneySea both understand Disney lovers better than Disney itself. They use classic IP, they have well-maintained parks, and they have state-of-the-art Imagineering, which is evidenced by all of this new stuff in Fantasyland, like Rapunzel's Forest, or Peter Pan's Neverland, or Frozen Kingdom. All of these areas in DisneySea have far exceeded anything that I probably ever expected to see from a Disney park in this era. I think that in the days of old, maybe in like the late 90s, early 2000s, there was some really, really cool stuff being done at Disney World back then. And I mean, of course, over Disney World and Disneyland's histories as well, right? Since its very inception, both parks have had an incredible journey of Imagineering over the years, and it's only in the past maybe 10 years that that's become lackluster. And it's tough to even say that it's lackluster, right? Because some of the things that they've done in recent years, have been absolutely astounding, like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, or Rise of the Resistance over in Galaxy's Edge, regardless of how you feel about the sequel trilogy. There are rides that they've made that are incredible. Avatar, of course, right? So it's tough to even juxtapose it this way, but I think that the crux of the issue and why I believe Tokyo Disneyland and DisneySea are doing it better is because Disney is too big as a company, right? They've absorbed a lot of different companies over the past 15 years, especially, and they've become this mega conglomerate that can't focus in on their own brands and in their own parks. Now, why is Tokyo Disneyland and DisneySea an exception to this rule? Well, per the Wikipedia article and just the company's history, it's because it's the only Disney park that's licensed by Disney. It's not actually run by Disney. So the Oriental Land Company is the overseer for the Tokyo Disney parks. And it's clear when you look at those parks rather, versus the US parks, that there's just a substantial level of detail that they like to throw into those things. And it's pretty incredible what they're able to accomplish, especially in Fantasyland. There's been so many videos about ride-throughs and walkthroughs of these new lands that have popped up over the past couple days, and it's just magical looking at it. And I don't say that word a lot because I think it's a little bit catchy, right? It's like, or it's a little bit, maybe sensationalized, but it is magical. When you look at what they've accomplished there, it's seriously remarkable. So why doesn't the Walt Disney Company, which operates Disneyland and Disney World, put that same level of care into the US parks? The answer, like I mentioned before, I think they are too big, but it's also even a little bit past that. So this is speculative territory. We'll just call it that. I think it's educated speculative territory, but because I'm not an expert in economics, because I don't have, records of the Walt Disney Company's financials or where they're putting money where or whatever, I don't have access to any of those things. But I think that we can all make educated guesses, and that's what I'm about to do. I'm about to make some educated guesses, right? So my speculation, and I think I'm not alone here, there are plenty of people that speculate the same thing, is that the parks, Disney parks in California and in Florida, both make an obscene amount of money. They make a lot of money for the Walt Disney Company. They make the most money out of any of their things that they own for the company, outside of maybe, like ABC, like the NBA and like sports and things along those lines, right? And with that, the money that they make from the parks is what's being used to go and fund these giant movies that they're doing, right? Which lately are not doing super hot at the box office. So just to put this in perspective for you, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny lost $134.2 million for the Walt Disney Company. That, for being one project, is fairly substantial when you look at just the cost of the movie in general. The Marvels failed to even cross $100 million domestically at the box office, which is pretty crazy considering that the first Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. And granted, you had some hype with, I think at that time it was Infinity War, or no, I think it was Endgame actually, that, the Marvel fans were riding that high, so it's just like hey, let's get our quick fix before we go and watch Endgame. Makes sense, right? Makes sense that movie would do better than maybe it would have if it came out, a couple years prior or whatever. But it still made over $1 billion, which is certainly not nothing, right? Deadline reported that Wish, which came out in November of last year, late November of last year, or early December, doesn't matter, lost Disney $131 million. And for those of you that don't know, I'm assuming that you probably do if you're watching this channel, right? But if you don't know about Wish, Wish was this 100-year celebratory film that Disney crafted that had all these nice little Easter eggs in it from films of the past, etc. And it just did not connect with audiences or make any kind of an impact. Just for reference, Encanto, which just came out a couple years prior, is a far better movie. All of that, coupled with the fact that Disney Plus is also losing the money hand over fist, does not bode well for the Walt Disney Company. So because the box office has been down, and because all these projects that they're sinking all this money into aren't giving them a good return on their investment, it gives them less money to pour back into the parks. And because of that, I think that Disney should really switch their priorities around. I think they should focus on maybe a couple of big movies a year, let their studios operate autonomously, like they had for a long time prior. I think there's a lot of oversight in trying to keep this like weird cohesive brand with family-friendly stuff and everything. I think they're getting away with that. Like Deadpool 3 is obviously moving away from that, especially for the Marvel brand, right? But, Star Wars could use a touch of that as well. And even some of the Disney stuff could use a touch of that. When you buy a company like Fox that's known for doing stuff that pushes the boundaries a little bit, it bodes well to incorporate some of those things that company did well. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So are the parks still worth visiting? The U.S. parks, that is. The answer for me is still yes, of course. I still love going to Disney parks. In fact, I was just there a few weeks ago, and I'm going back in June to do some more vlogging. But I might be the exception to that rule, right? I operate a YouTube channel that talks about theme parks, and Disney is like the largest theme park company ever. Universal's definitely giving them a run for their money, but this is where we're at currently, right? So I think that for me, I might be the exception to the rule, but I would still tell families that if you enjoy Disney stuff, if you enjoy legacy Disney stuff, even that's not the more new stuff, there is plenty of that to be had at the parks still. There are plenty of old things that are still wonderful, and there are some seriously cool new things as well that are worth your time and checking out. Disney is one of those things, going to Disney, I should say, going to Disney World specifically, that's my frame of reference, right, is worth it because it is what you make it. And as we all know, anything that's experiential, like a theme park, like a movie, like a concert, all these forms of entertainment that we enjoy and partake in are also elevated or crushed by the people that we have around us. So if you're doing a Disney vacation with your friends and family, and you love your friends and family, the odds of you having a good time, pretty high. You're probably going to have a good time because it's rides and they're really fun rides as well. So you're going to enjoy it, right? You're going to have fun. I have friends that are very anti theme park, anti going to Disney. We had this conversation on Sunday, and it's tough to try and explain to someone who hasn't ever been to Disney or who went once when they were like 3 and just are turned off of the idea because they're an adult and they don't want to be around other people or what have you. It's really difficult to explain to them, hey, going to the parks is worth your time because it's fun. It's fun to do with your friends and family. And yes, going to Disney is expensive. They do have like the 4-day magic ticket right now, which is great. You can go to a single park a day for $100 a pop if you're over the age of 10, of course. And if if you have kids that are under 10, then you get a little bit of a break. But a single use day ticket without a park hopper starts at like $150 basically. And that's for any of the parks, and Magic Kingdom I think is like $170. So yeah, it's expensive for sure. And on top of that, if you are trying to maximize your day and get as many rides in as possible, or get as many rides in and then see shows or what have you, then doing something like Genie Plus makes a lot of sense at that point. And the Genie Plus is $30 a person, just about $28, something like that. And then if you want to ride the big rides, they're going to get you there too, and you're going to pay an extra $15 if you don't have a like queue. You're in the queue for that ride, like an early morning. You have to get up at 7 basically and reserve your spot. The virtual queue, there it is. Goodness gracious, I don't know why I couldn't remember what that was called. Sorry. All those things stack. Food stacks, of course. It adds even another layer to that. So it's expensive, but it is one of those things where if you love Disney, if you love what they've done over the years and what they've been about over the years, it's still worth it. It's still worth going. It's still enjoyable. The Disney that we've seen maybe the past 10 years, I think that slowly but surely there are at least facets within the company that are listening to us. They are hearing what the people have to say. And there are certainly people that are a lot more critical of them than I am. I'm fairly critical of the Disney company. I think, just for context, I think it's worth being critical of something that you love if you're not happy with the results that they're giving you. And I think that's fair. That's what it's all about, right? It's perfectly fine to have commentary over these things. But it's also important to remember the good and acknowledge the good when we see it. And I still think that even today, it's worth going to Disney World. I still really enjoy it, and I think that you would too. So if you haven't been and you've been thinking about going, then you should book a trip. For all of us in the US that are looking at Tokyo Disney right now and longing to be there, stay the course, folks. At some point, we'll make it happen. But thanks for watching this video. It's a quick one today, but I appreciate you watching it anyway. I'll catch you on the next one.